For as long as you can remember, you have been trying to win an argument with yourself. Not out loud, quietly, in the background of ordinary days. There is a part of you that worries, and there is another part of you that keeps telling that worry to stop. And somewhere between those two voices, you have been living your whole life. You have probably tried everything to make the worried part quieter. You have reasoned with it. You have laid out the facts. You have reminded yourself, calmly and logically, that nothing is actually wrong. And for a moment, sometimes, it seems to listen. Then it comes back, a little louder than before, as if it did not believe a single word you said. It can feel like losing an argument you never agreed to be in. What almost no one tells you is that the argument itself is part of what keeps the feeling alive. Not because you are doing it wrong, because the part of you that worries does not experience your resistance as help. It experiences it as confirmation. When you push against it that hard, something in you reads the effort as urgency. If this has to be fought so forcefully, then surely there must be a real threat somewhere behind it. So the harder you work to make the worry disappear, the more convinced your body becomes that there is something here worth fighting. This is the quiet trap most people never see. The more effort you spend trying to feel calm, the more your own system reads that effort as proof of danger. You may have noticed this without ever having words for it. The days you try hardest to relax are sometimes the days you end up most wound up. The nights you most need your mind to go quiet are often the nights it refuses the loudest. It is not that calm is impossible for you. It is that the way you have been reaching for it keeps placing it just out of reach. For a long time, you may have believed the goal was to defeat this part of yourself, to finally overpower the worry, to shut down the thinking, to silence the part of you that never seems to switch off. You treated the anxious part of you like an opponent, something to be managed, corrected, beaten into stillness. But you cannot win a war against a part of yourself without both sides losing. Here is the thing that changes everything, slowly, when you let it. The anxious part of you is not your enemy. It is not a flaw in your wiring or a defect in your character. It is a part of you that learned somewhere along the way that staying ready felt safer than being caught off guard. It is doing the only thing it knows how to do. It is trying to protect you in the clumsy, tiring, outdated way it learned a long time ago. When you understand that, something shifts that fighting could never produce. Because you cannot reason with a part of you that you are also trying to destroy. The moment it senses you are coming to silence it, it does what any protective system does when it feels threatened. It works harder. It raises its voice. But when you stop attacking it, when you turn toward it with something closer to curiosity than contempt, the urgency slowly begins to loosen its grip. This is the whole difference between fighting your anxiety and understanding it. Fighting says, this should not be here, make it stop. Understanding says, this is here, and there is a reason it is here, even if I do not fully know the reason yet. One of those keeps the alarm ringing. The other lets it begin to quiet on its own. And there is a fear underneath all of this that almost never gets spoken out loud. A quiet belief that if you stop fighting the worry, even for a single moment, it will take over completely. That the bracing is the only thing standing between you and some disaster you cannot quite name. So, you keep gripping, because loosening your hold feels less like rest and more like negligence. But notice what that belief quietly assumes. It assumes the worry is the one in charge, and you are only barely managing to hold it back. The truth is closer to the opposite of that. The grip was never the thing keeping you safe. The grip was only ever the thing keeping you tired. You have spent years maybe asking the wrong question. The question was always some version of, how do I get rid of this? And every answer to that question, no matter how clever, carried the same hidden message underneath it. There is something wrong with me, and I need to eliminate it. Your body heard that message every single time. And a body that believes something is wrong with it does not settle. It stays watchful. The new question is much quieter. Not how do I make this stop, but what is this part of me actually trying to do for me? That single shift takes the war out of the room. Think about what happens in your own experience when another person finally understands you. Not when they fix you, not when they hand you advice, just when they truly understand. Something in your chest loosens. You stop having to argue your case. You stop bracing to be misread. The same thing happens inside you when you stop interrogating your anxiety and start understanding it. The part of you that was braced for your judgment can finally ease, because for the first time in years, it is not under attack from the inside. This is not a technique. There is nothing to perform here. You are not understanding your anxiety so that it will leave faster. That would just be fighting wearing a gentler face, and your body can always tell the difference. You understand it because it is true. And being met by your own attention is what that part of you has quietly been waiting for the entire time. There is a strange grief that can come with this. Because once you start to see the anxious part of you as something that was only ever trying to keep you safe, you also have to feel how long it has been working without rest. How many ordinary mornings it scanned the day before, you were even awake enough to ask it to. How many conversations it ran through in advance so you would not be caught unprepared. How many nights it stayed up moving through everything that could go wrong, not to torture you, but because somewhere it came to believe that being ready was the price of being okay. That part of you has been carrying something heavy for a very long time, and it never once asked for thanks. It only asked, in the only language it has, whether it might finally be safe to set some of the weight down. Understanding does not mean the feeling vanishes. This matters because almost no one tells you this part honestly. The goal was never to become a person who feels no anxiety at all. That person does not exist, and chasing them is just one more way of being at war with who you actually are. The real shift is not from anxious to calm. It is from anxious and fighting to anxious and no longer alone inside your own mind. When the two parts of you stop being enemies, the energy you were spending on the fight quietly comes back to you. You may not notice it as a dramatic moment. It rarely arrives as one. It arrives more as an absence. The absence of a background argument you did not even realize was always running. A morning where the worry shows up and you do not immediately wrestle it to the floor. A quiet that no longer feels like a problem waiting to be solved. You start to relate to your own mind differently. The anxious thought arrives, and instead of the old reflex, the instant scramble to make it leave, there is a small pause, a flicker of recognition. There you are again. I know what you are trying to do. You do not have to obey it. You do not have to fight it either. You can let it be exactly what it is, a part of you doing the job it has always done, and you can keep living anyway. That is what understanding gives you that fighting never could. Not the end of the feeling, the end of the war about the feeling. And the war, it turns out, was always the more exhausting part. So if you were tired, deeply tired, and you have been fighting this for years, consider that the tiredness may not be coming from the anxiety itself. It may be coming from the resistance, from the constant quiet labor of being against yourself every hour without a break. That kind of effort drains something that no amount of sleep can reach. You are allowed to stop fighting now. Not because you have won, not because the feeling is finally gone, but because you can see now that the part of you that worries was never the real problem. It was a part of you that cared about you in the only way it knew how, and stayed at its post far longer than anyone should ever have to. It is still there, that part. In some form, it always will be. But it does not have to be silenced. It does not have to be defeated. It only has to be understood. And when it finally feels seen by you instead of fought by you, something across the whole system can begin, slowly and without being forced, to rest. Not because you made it, because you finally stopped fighting it. Perhaps the change you were searching for was never outside of you. Perhaps it was always waiting for this moment of stillness. So for now, stop pushing, stop chasing, and simply remain here, because something within you already knows the way.